perfection of wisdom, mother of Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and all beings, nourishing, holding, and healing all, great Mother Earth, precious jewel of the cosmos, to you we bow in gratitude. We take refuge in the earth as our teacher, the one who shows us the way in this life. We take refuge in the earth as an expression of the Dharma, the teachings of interbeing, understanding, and love. We take refuge in the earth as an embodiment of the Sangha, the vast interdependent community of life in balance and harmony. Living within the web of life on earth, we dedicate ourselves to embodying awakened awareness on the path of healing in service to all beings. We dedicate our lives to realizing our oneness with Gaia. So let's do that, shall we? Those verses came to me a few years ago in the process of writing my book. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. All right, so I'll try to speak up in my voice. Yeah, those, just to say that those verses are, of course, the refuge in the three jewels, and the Bodhisattva vow. But which I learned originally from Thich Nhat Hanh and others, those simple words come from him, but I adapted them to be reflecting the call to taking refuge in Gaia, in the earth, in these times, because it feels as if that's what's needed. So I'm happy to share them with you today. I'm happy to be here today. It's an honor to be here at Upaya and be practicing with you and sharing what I can with you in this time of collective awakening, and the great turning, as Joanna Macy would say, turning from one way of being to another and waking up together in a collective awakening. So, so here we are. And I want to say hi also to those of you who were listening online. It's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege for me to be here. And it's a privilege for us all to be able to practice together and to cultivate awareness and to wake up. This is the great opportunity of our lives. How am I doing over there? You hear me okay?
Be a little bit louder. Can they turn that?
I don't know. Can you? Taking a breath. So my Dharma path has been a little different than how it often goes for some of us. I started in the Zen tradition. My root teacher, I would say, is Thich Nhat Hanh, although I was practicing in the San Francisco Bay Area before I met Thai. And I always had an interest in the Tibetan tradition as well. And so eventually I found my way onto that Vajrayana path, studying with a number of great teachers in the last, over the last period of time. But I always felt this call to the earth, And in 1990, I had the chance to go to Nepal and meet a 106-year-old Lama living in a cave in a remote part of the mountains, way up high near the Everest region, in the Everest region. And I realized as I was walking up the path that I had the chance to meet the old, proverbial old wise man in the cave, and that I ought to make the most of it and ask him a really good question. So I'm going to read to you a little bit from the book and hopefully inspire you to want to read the book yourself. There's a lot in it and many threads that are woven through this book, because I had to reckon with a lot in accepting the assignment that I was given, which was, I think I'll read you a little bit and then talk about it again. How's everybody doing? Okay. So it starts off that I'm on the path, walking up the steep stones of the high Himalayas. The path climbs and climbs, and I wonder as I stumble along, what am I doing? At home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, my life has recently fallen apart. This is back in 1990. My marriage has ended. I feel lost and confused. And here on this path halfway around the world, I'm trying to find the way. Luckily, my traveling companions know where to go. As I say, it's 1990, and they're taking me to a hermitage of a 106-year-old Buddhist Lama who lives in a cave at 13,000 feet in a faraway corner of Nepal. Charak, let's see. I prepared myself to meet the old Lama, known formally as His Eminence Kushuk Mangdong and personally as Charak Rinpoche. Charak coming from the place where he resides, called Charak. He was the teacher of Sherpa friend Nawang Sultram Zangpo, and who was guiding me on this trek. Lama Sultram had grown up under the care of Charak Rinpoche and looked upon him as his root teacher. He loved him as a father and was excited to see him again. It was a remarkable chance to receive guidance from a holy man who had known only the protected valleys and mountaintops of Nepal, though he had traveled vast realms through the power of his compassionate awareness and expanded consciousness. What would his perspective be, and what could I learn from him that I could share with others to make this earth a better place for all? I hoped I was worthy to meet him. One step, one breath, higher and higher into that rarefied air, I climbed. With each step, a clearer awareness dawned of the moment I was in. But what would my question for the Rinpoche be? My mind was a swirl of so many things at once. Everything I cared about, everything I'd ever heard about enlightenment, all my ideas and worries. The prayer flags greeting us along the way waved their colorful hands, and I was inspired to keep going by the prayers in the wind and on the rocks carved with mantras, invoking the compassion of Chenrezig and the companionship of Tara, the Savioress, who is said to come when called. At a certain point in the ascent, I knew I must find a question for Charak Rinpoche that would be meaningful, not just to me, but to others. Walking up the path, my heart had to work hard to push the blood and pump the muscles to make that high altitude climb, and I became aware of the earth talking to me in my blood and my bones. Once again, I sensed the terrible challenges our planet was facing and felt her calling for attention in each cell of my body. A deep longing for Earth's health and safety came into my heart and mind, and I asked myself, what can I do to bring healing and protection to the Earth? This was the question that I had been looking for. So when that question dawned, I realized that was all I could think about. That was back in 1990. But even then, the earth was talking to us. And here in New Mexico, as you most know, we live across the valley from the Los Alamos National Laboratory. And I knew Joanna Macy and her call to nuclear guardianship, which was a wake-up call for me and was one of the motivations that I had in asking the Lama, what can we do about radioactive waste, for example, that lasts for literally hundreds of thousands of years and affects the whole web of life. And so there was that, and there was all the other things that we could name. And nowadays we can name even more. But I was kind of consumed by the question and, what would he say? What would he instruct us to do? How would he respond to that question? Here was an old Lama living there, having never been anywhere else really in the world. But yet, when the day finally came for me to speak with him, well, the first thing that he said was, what is it like where you live? Is there anyone practicing deeply in your region, and in the rest of the world? And he said, even just one person can make a difference in the whole area where they live. And I said, well, what about the earth? What can we do to bring healing and protection to the earth? He said, well, and he looked at me, and he was a very old Lama, but he didn't miss a beat. And he said, you need to get these earth treasure vases and you need to put them in the ground and they will do that work. My rational mind thought, really? How's a little clay pot filled with prayers and symbolic offerings going to affect the kinds of change that we are needing in the world? But the other part of me thought, okay, where can I get some? Because I realized we have to do everything we can, and who's to say how the changes are going to happen? And we, have to try everything. So one thing led to another. And I was told to go further up the mountain to another monastery where the monks would make the treasure vases. And we were greeted by the lovely abbot of that monastery. And he said, oh, yes, yes, yes. How many do you want? And I said, oh my God, I don't know, like 25,000. It's like every corner of the earth needs one. And I said, I don't know, 25. Kind of makes me cry today. He said, oh, yes, yes. And I started talking to him about the need in the world and things like radioactive waste and climate change and all the things that are going on as the web of life unravels before our very eyes. And he walked away and he went back into his room and he brought out a lot of the relics and the sacred substances that the Tibetans collect, like the Catholics do, a lot of precious medicine. And he said that they would mix a lot of this into the clay of the pots and consecrate them and then give them to us to fill and seal and bury in the earth in places where they were being called for. And so in a nutshell, that's the practice. The vases were crafted. They didn't want them to be filled in Nepal in the traditional way by the lamas because they would have to travel across the world to get here. And once they're filled, they're sealed and they're never to be opened. So they told me to just put them in the ground, they'll do the work. Again, my mind was sorry. My mind was kind of caught up by the thought that it would be that easy. And so when I got them, I put them in the closet and tried to forget about them and went about my own Dharma practice for a good while. And for most of the next decade, that's what I was doing, was really cultivating my own practice and honing my own vessel. But I started to hear, and many of us started to hear the calls, the summons from the earth. And here in New Mexico, we had forest fires over in the Jemez Mountains, as you may recall, coming very close to the Los Alamos National Laboratory, and all kinds of other things, as you also know, started to talk to us louder and louder. And so we began to pull them out and had to, in a sense, figure out how to make the practice our own, because the lamas really kept saying things to me like, oh, well, this is sort of a side practice. You really should be doing this. This is, like kind of, haha, you're still doing that. And lots of people had that response because it has taken 30 plus years to distribute all of these treasure vases, which have grown in number from the original 30 that I received to another 40 came later. And then we crafted another 30 ourselves with the help of Mary Naranjo at Santa Clara Pueblo. And so all told, there's close to 100, many of which have been planted all over the world, and some of which are still in process. So that's how it began. And we started, I'm just ending up telling you what's in here because I'm enjoying talking with you. And you can read about it. There's so many stories in here because I went all over the planet and others joined me in the practice of taking these little clay pots all over the world and making relations with elders because we realized that we had to do that, to make the proper relationship to the land that we were going into, never assuming that we had some answer or that this would necessarily be wanted or accepted by the indigenous peoples who we met and visited. They went into some really rough places because the world is calling out in very challenging ways. So my own practice has been to, as Thich Nhat Hanh would say, not close my eyes before suffering. But the treasure vases have a way of opening our hearts because they invite us to make our most precious prayers and offerings, symbolic of healing and protection, into this little open vessel, which we had to kind of figure out how to do because, as I say, they hadn't really told us. They just said, put them in the ground, they'll do the work. And I'm sure with all those substances and relics and things that were mixed into the clay, that's true. But who's to say how these things really work? What I can say is that the process of opening them, dedicating them to going here or there or anywhere, getting activated ourselves with the prayers that are called for in that region, making the offerings from our deepest heart because we love and care about this earth so much. We want to see our communities in peace. We want to see health and happiness thrive. We want to see the waters flow clean, and the air and the animals and all the rest of it we can possibly think of. And so these little holy vessels, as Joanna Macy called them, kind of pull out of us what we love and care about most. And that's what we offer. And in the process of making those offerings, it awakens something in us that is our gift, our purpose, our task, our calling. Because if we care, then sure enough we want to do what we can. It's one of the great gifts of being a human, is our compassion to suffer with, to recognize the other as not separate. So the little clay pots, we don't know how or what kind of effect they will have. We don't even often know, well, we do eventually know where they're going to go, but people always ask me, so how did you decide where to take them? It was an impossible task to decide where to take them. It was a completely non-conceptual opportunity to open to so much larger than ourselves, to consider where they need to go, and also to respond spontaneously, to respond from our hearts to the call that was coming to us. Where do you think of when you imagine taking one of these somewhere? What places do you love? Do you want to see protected and healed? How would you imagine doing that? And that's what we pour into these little pots. And then we plant them like a seed in the ground. And then we watch what happens. In the process, we become a holy vessel ourselves. And all kinds of amazing things have happened. And that's also in the book, is, going to Africa, for example. The first place I went in Africa, I was completely overwhelmed with, like, oh my God, where and how will it be accepted and all of that. And I knew we had to spread them around the whole planet. We had to embrace Gaia with our love in every way. And the first place I went was Liberia, which is a place where there was a terrible civil war. It is a place that was founded by freed Americans. Of course, it was already there before they got. There's a strong connection between the United States and Liberia. And Dina Metzger, who some of you may know, is a writer and a healer and a visionary, invited me to take one to Liberia. civil war into a whole peace building project that still goes on with former combatants and ex-child soldiers, and building peace huts in very tangible outcome of taking a treasure vase. And there are so many other stories in the book of things that have happened. And some of them are very subtle and intangible, and some of them are more powerfully tangible. But the point is that this practice has awakened us to a relationship with the earth. And as I have carried out the practice, I have had to really look deeply and reckon with so many parts of my own life that needed healing and transformation. And I know that's what happens, or should happen, when we take our seat and look inside and start to take up the path of awakening and transformation, is our lives begin to really change. And so, but I also, like I said, I didn't have a lot of guidance from the Buddhist world, interestingly, even though this practice comes from the Buddhist tradition. It didn't really fit in with the way that the teachings are or have been given traditionally. And I was really hungering for a source of refuge that was reliable, because as we know, there's a lot of abuse inside of many of the lineages of Buddhism, as well as, of course, many other systems in our world, political systems, other spiritual traditions, etc. And I had my own reckoning to do with teachers and lineages that were not, in the end, good examples of integrity. And that was really a hard part of the journey, as well as abuse, the abuses, as in my own family. Many of us have suffered abuse, and it's sort of rampant in the world. And so finding one's way is often pretty challenging. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So I was hungering for a source of refuge. The gurus weren't really giving it to me, even though I have tremendous appreciation and respect for the teachers that I've had. Some incredibly wonderful, precious teachers. But as the path of healing for the earth was unfolding, I realized that the path of the Dharma, the way the Dharma is being transmitted, needs to transform as well, in order to be to answer to the times. That there's many aspects of how we do things that we love and respect from the past, but which are somewhat outdated today. And that it is time for really looking deeply at how, what is this path of global healing? How are we going to do this? And you may remember Thich Nhat Hanh saying, and I was there, and so was Roshi at Plum Village, when he said, the next Buddha will be a Sangha. And when he said it, you could hear a pin drop. It was like, what? what was he saying? And so that has rippled out over the years. And I don't know about you, but I have come to really feel that is true. The next Buddha will be a Sangha. We are it. We're it. And the individual path of enlightenment is not what's called for right now. The path that is called for is one of collective awakening in relationship to Mother Gaia. And she is our greatest teacher in these times. Maybe that will change, but for me, she is the greatest teacher. I mean, if you look at the web of life, and or you go out and put your back against a tree and put your toes in the cool water rushing up on the mountain, or eat the ripe peach that's coming on the trees right now. Those are all little awakenings, and we come back to our true self in her lap. The Buddha summoned the earth when he awakened. He didn't, do anything else. That was it. And so here we are. Here we are. The earth is such a great teacher, the great awakener of these times. The earth is an embodiment of all those teachings, as we recited in the beginning, of all the teachings of interconnection, interbeing, all of it. It's impermanence. Name one, anyone, they're all there. And the Sangha, the community. So we can take refuge in her and recognize that we are interdependent. We are not separate from Gaia. Therefore, we're not separate from each other either, or the trees, or the animals, or the flowers, or, the waters, the people in Gaza. So to be a holy vessel, to awaken to our this great opportunity that we've been given in this time. Like, again, Joanna would say, what a great opportunity it is to be alive at this time. As difficult as it is, and as despairing as we may find ourselves from time to time. So we love. We love this life. We love the beauty that is here, whether it's in wild nature or in the eyes of a child, or the fruit ripening on the trees, or the incredible diversity of life on Earth in whatever form it takes. And this is this is what we give our life to. It's not about me anymore. It's not about the me and you, or you, I mean, we got to take care of those little parts of ourselves as we make our way. But this awakening, this transformation, this healing that these times are calling for is about getting out of our own way and making the most heartfelt offering that we can of our precious human lives in balance and harmony with all life. I remembered an incident at the Ojai Foundation with Joan, with Roshi, years ago when Thich Nhat Hanh, I was the one with Roshi and others to organize these retreats for Thich Nhat Hanh at the Ojai Foundation way back when in the 80s. And I remembered there was some ceremony and Roshi said, "May my body be a prayer stick for the world." And so that's the spirit. And that's what the treasure vases are. You know, they are an offering to the world. They're an offering to connect us with what is most important and to plant that seed. And then we water it through our awakened activity, our sacred activism. And our love is the fuel. It is what keeps us going. It is what we draw on and we cultivate and we remember every chance we get. And every breath we take, we are conspiring with Gaia. And with each and every breath, we can wake up. And we can turn the wheel of the Dharma. Nobody else is going to do it for us. It's up to us. So let's do that, shall we? There's a beautiful poem I want to close with. There's all this too. And I'm surprised I didn't read more to you, but this has been wonderful to share in this way. And here's the poem. It's by a woman named Souza Silva Marie. From whence my hope I cannot say, except it grows in the cells of my skin. In my envelope of mysteries, it hums. In this sheath so akin to the surface of the earth, it whispers. Beneath the wail and dissonance in the world, hope's song grows. Until I know that with this turning, we put a broken age to rest. We who are alive at such a cusp now usher in 1,000 years of healing. Winged ones, four-leggeds, grasses and mountains and each tree, all the swimming creatures, even we wary two-leggeds, hum and call and create the changing song. We remake all our relations. We convert our minds to the earth. In this turning time, we finally learn to chime and blend, attune our voices, sing the vision of the great magic we move within. We begin the new habit of getting up glad for 1,000 years of healing. Alalaho, which is a Sanskrit for, isn't it wonderful? So much more to share with you. I would welcome questions and conversation afterwards. And as Noah said, there's a few books back there. And thank you so much for listening and for being present with all that I've shared.